Hey everyone, how's it going? Coming back with another guitar review, this time on an Epiphone. This is the Inspired by Gibson Hummingbird. And there's two things I want to say before I get into this review. The first one is, if you're wondering if this guitar is worth the $850 street price, brand new, and you don't have a lot of time, you can click away now, knowing the answer is yes, absolutely 100%. The other thing I want to say is, if you are one of those shut up and play kind of guys, you're not going to like this video. Okay, this is not a sound demonstration. I do have that posted on the channel already. There's tons of people out there demoing the guitar. This is a review. I'm of course going to give acoustic demonstrations during this video, and I'm going to link in the description below how you can hear how it sounds plugged in. But this is going to be me going over the specs of the guitar, you know, what it's made out of, the measurement, things like that, and who I think it's suited for, my own personal feelings on the guitar, how well I think it's made, etc., etc. So, if you're interested in all that, stick around. If you're not, hey, you know how to click away. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Like always, I have my notes over here so I don't forget anything, and I can try to bring up every point that I can. So let's go ahead and get into this. The first thing I want to say is that this guitar is absolutely fantastic. Now, I've had a chance to play many of the Epiphone guitars, acoustic guitars here recently, from the Masterbuilt series and the Inspired by Gibson series, and they really are fantastic guitars. But of the ones that I have played, which have been the J45, the J200, the Hummingbird here, and what was the model of that Masterbuilt? I played a couple of the archtop Masterbuilts a couple years ago, but the flat top that I played recently was the Frontier. I want to say it had like the really big pick guard and the iced tea burst. Great guitar, but I think that this Inspired by Gibson Hummingbird is Epiphone's best overseas produced acoustic guitar. I have to say overseas produced because they do have some US made stuff, and those guitars are freaking phenomenal. We're talking every bit as good as the US built Gibsons, like hands down, not even a joke. They're amazing guitars. But as far as their Indonesian produced guitars or overseas produced guitars in general, I truly think that this Hummingbird is the cream of the crop, the top of the line, the creme de la creme. This thing is fantastic. And I've had a chance to play not only this, but also authentic Gibson Hummingbirds, both vintage and modern. And what I can tell you is, while the Gibson Hummingbird still does sound a bit better, it is such a small difference that you would be shocked. Like, with most of the other Inspired by Gibson guitars, they're all fantastic, same with the Masterbuilts, but you can hear a notable difference in tone. The Inspired by Gibson J45 is great, but it's not comparable to the same degree to the Gibson J45. The Inspired by Gibson J200, fantastic guitar, but yeah, there's a notable tone difference between it and the Gibson J200. But this and the Gibson Hummingbird are actually so close. I'm saying this is like 95% the same sound as the Gibson Hummingbird. So for the price that it's being offered at right now, again, $850 is the current MSRP, you shouldn't hesitate. You should scoop them up, because I'm genuinely afraid that Epiphone is going to discontinue this line of guitars, and possibly the Masterbuilt line of guitars, if they find or start to discover that they may be out competing their, Gibson branded guitars, because I think they genuinely will. Especially Gibson's lower end stuff, what do they call that series? It's like the walnut back and sides, the player ports on the sides. This thing smokes them, all of them, every single one of them. Those guitars are worse, in my opinion, in general, than all of the Masterbuilt and Inspired by Gibson guitars, especially this one. So, I'm genuinely afraid that Gibson will realize Epiphone is outcompeting their American-made primary brand and will discontinue this particular line of guitars, or at the very least mark them way up in price. So I would recommend getting my hands on one ASAP. Now, I got mine at a pawn shop for $400, and the reason I was able to do that is kind of twofold. The first one is they had it listed for $500, and they had it listed as an Epiphone Hummingbird Studio, okay, which is the $350 version of the guitar. So they had it listed for too much even for that. But also, it had been strung backwards. Okay, someone had strung this up backwards without even changing the nut out. And I was able to convince the pawn shop owner that it could have damaged the guitar to be strung backwards, and knocked $100 off the price. So I walked away out of there with a great deal on this guitar. But that said, knowing what I know now, I would have happily paid the full $850 for this guitar. I really would have. We have a solid Sitka spruce top, okay, with a beautiful cherry sunburst on this one. You can also get them in a gorgeous aged natural gloss finish, and this is a gloss finish too. You can see how beautiful that burst is though on that solid Sitka spruce top. We have this, of course, iconic Gibson Hummingbird pickguard, but unlike with many of their cheaper Hummingbirds they've made from the Epiphone line, you can see this actually is a very thick, I believe it's epoxy based pickguard. So very, very similar to the Gibson one. This thing is a nice, big, thick piece of material. And unlike the cheaper ones, you're not going to scratch this image off by playing because it's, you know, kind of inside of the pickguard. It's not just a top layer. So you're not going to have to worry about scratching that decal off like I've seen on so many Epiphone Hummingbird studios. And by the way, those aren't bad guitars. I'm not bashing those guitars. I've played a lot of those. I think those are actually really good $300, $400 guitars. They really are. This is obviously in a league all its own. It's a league way above those. We have solid mahogany back and sides. And look how gorgeous that is. A mahogany neck. Indian laurel for the bridge and the fingerboard. Bone for the saddle and the nut. Okay, we have the new Epiphone headstock, which I think looks quite a bit better than the one they were using for the longest time. It's not as elongated, not as cartoony. And it's got these Epiphone Deluxe. Let me see if I can bring this in and show you. Epiphone Deluxe branded vintage style Tulip tuning machines. And I did a lot of research on who makes the Epiphone Deluxe tuning machines. At one point it was Kluson, but it is no longer Kluson. These are actually made by Wilkinson now. So these are the exact same tuning machines as the Wilkinson Deluxe. So, you know, middle-end tuning machines. As far as how they perform adequately. It holds tune well enough. But I will say that is one thing you could upgrade if you wanted the absolute best quality you can possibly get, is you could upgrade these to something like Schallers or Gotos and get even better tuning stability. They're fine as is. I don't feel like they need to be replaced, but you could get better. Okay? On the fretboard, we have true, genuine mother-of-pearl split parallelogram inlay, which look gorgeous, by the way. The bridge is the typical Gibson-style reverse bridge, so basically the same bridge you see on every other guitar, but they flipped it. And you can see it's also secured with 2 pins there, or 2 bolts, in addition to the glue there underneath these mother-of-pearl caps. Gorgeous looking guitar. There's the headstock. There's the tuners again. The sticker on the back you can see. Yep, made in Indonesia. Absolutely gorgeous. And we have, this is going to be kind of hard to show on camera, but you may be able to see it, a Fishman Sonitone pickup system in there. So the Sonitone is the little Soundhole preamp, which just has a volume and tone control basically. And then the Sonicore is the Undersaddle Piezo, which is hooked up to it. As far as how the Fishman Sonitone stuff sounds, I think there's some of the better sounding Piezos out there. I have played better, admittedly. Whatever system Boulder Creek uses in their guitars, I think are some of the best sounding Piezo pickup systems I've ever heard. But I've always been happy with Fishman electronics, and especially the Sonicore stuff. And you'll find them in the $300 guitars all the way up to $1,000 guitars. And there's a reason for it. They just sound good at any price point. Are they going to be as authentic an acoustic sound as you can get from something like a transducer system or an LR Baggs mic system? No. So being completely blunt and 100% honest, no, it's not going to be as perfect or as true to an acoustic tone when plugged in as those kind of pickups. It's still a piezo at the end of the day. So it's only ever going to sound so close, but it's on the closer side of things for a piezo pickup. But if you wanted a genuine, true acoustic tone, yeah, you could rip that out and put an LR Baggs in here. It's going to cost you, you know, $300 to do so, but you could do it if you wanted to. Do I think it's necessary? No. I think it sounds fantastic as it is, and I think it's a great gigging guitar as it is and a great recording guitar as it is, but if you really wanted the best sound possible, then yeah, that is an upgrade you could make to it. Let's see. Nut width is 1 11/16, so pretty common on most guitars at this price point, and we're looking at a 24.72-inch scale, so slightly shorter scale than the average Dreadnought. Kind of an interesting thing to note because it does mean that we have a different tension on the neck. Let's see, anything else that I forgot to mention? Okay, variations, here we go. There is a 12-string version available of this guitar, so if you're looking for a 12-string, you can get it in a 12-string. Already mentioned the finishes. Already mentioned it's not to be confused with the Pro or Studio series, and how it's similar to the Masterbuilt line. Already mentioned how it outcompetes Gibson. Already mentioned the tuning pegs. Oh yeah, binding. So we have cream binding all around the sides of the guitar and the neck. Okay, and I did also forget to mention this. We do have our dot inlay on the side of the neck, so we can see where we are that way. And a truss rod cover there, so to access the truss rod, we do have to pop that off and get into it that way, as opposed to from inside the Soundhole. And we have 2-ply purfling, which is just the typical black line purfling around the body of the guitar and the rosette of the guitar. So you can see that. Now I have this thing set up really, really low because when I take this to gigs, I will let other people play on it, and some people like to play lead on acoustic. So I have this set up for, you know, a really lead-friendly playing style. But as a result of me having set the action so low, if I really hammer this thing, we're going to start to notice more buzzing in the tone, just because the lower you get to the frets, obviously, the less it takes to buzz if you're not playing it correctly. So keep that in mind. How you set your action is going to be very important. I don't have mine set for super heavy hammering, so I'm not going to be demoing this with a lot of heavy hammering. But if you want to play it that way, you could set it up that way. I chose to lower the action. You don't have to. It didn't need it. It's just something that I wanted to do. The only other thing I want to note is that AMI, who is the German company who owns Sigma guitars, which is a little confusing because St. Louis Music also owns the right to the name Sigma here in the USA. If you don't know who they are, they're the company that owns Alvarez. But everywhere else in the world, Sigma's name is owned by AMI, and they're the ones who actually have access to like the Martin design layout and all that. So they're the ones who are making the quote-unquote true Sigma guitars, in the sense that they are closest to Martin. But they actually have their own Hummingbird, very similar to this, at the same price point, called the DMAG5. And that's going to have a micarta fingerboard and bridge, but a solid Sitka spruce top, laminate mahogany back and sides, funny enough, and Grover Rotomatic tuners, but at the same price point as this, with the same Fishman Sonitone pickup system as this. And my local music store is an AMI dealer, and I am doing everything I can to get him to get one of them in stock, purely so I can go down there with this guitar and record a comparison for you guys. But just know, if you're looking for a Hummingbird guitar, that is going to be directly in competition with this guitar at the same price range. And one thing very worth noting with it is they do make left-handed versions of it, from both the AMI version and the Sigma version, if memory serves me properly. So if you're a lefty looking for a Hummingbird at this price range, you can't get that from Epiphone, unfortunately, not at the time of this video, but you can get it from AMI. And I haven't played that particular AMI, but I have played tons of AMI guitars, and I can tell you they are fantastic guitars. The AMI J200 copy that I played, every bit as good as a Inspired by Gibson J200. Every single bit as good. Possibly actually a little bit better. So I'll try to get a comparison done if I can get them to stock one. That appears to be pretty much everything I have listed here. So what do I recommend this guitar for? I recommend this guitar to songwriters, to gigging musicians, to recording musicians, to couch musicians, bar band musicians. It doesn't matter. If you play acoustic guitar and you like the way this thing sounds, then I recommend it to literally everybody at any level. Okay? One thing I did forget to mention is the neck strap button placement. It is actually proper. We have a very nice thick strap button right here on the side of the neck, so that's going to hold your strap really well. And then the bottom here is our end pin jack, so we don't have any XLR outputs or anything like that. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into this sound demonstration now. And again, this is just going to be the pure acoustic sound. I will link below where you can hear how it sounds plugged in. But this is going to be me demonstrating the acoustic tone. That sustain is beautiful, even though these are just plastic bridge pins, by the way. So if you wanted to upgrade this, that's another thing you could do, is upgrade this to bone or tusk or ebony or rosewood or whatever pins you like best. But even without any upgraded pins, this thing has great sustain. And I'm not hitting it that hard, but we're also getting really good volume out of this guitar. Now, some folks will say that's due to the solid back and sides. I say that I don't buy into that because I play laminate back and side guitars that are just as loud. I think it has to do with the internal construction more so than anything. But we're not going to dive into all that. Let's see, what else can I do with this? For those wondering, this is currently strung with D'Addario XS 11 through 52 custom light phosphor bronze strings. So that's my string choice on practically all of my guitars right now. Screwing up like always. Very pretty articulate sound. The way I think it differs from the Gibson Hummingbird primarily is that we may have a little bit more of a chiminess on the high end as opposed to the slightly more focused clarity with the Gibson. Maybe. Maybe I'm just hearing things. Let's do some finger picking. I screw up every time I do one of these, but it's fine. You're hearing how the guitar sounds regardless. just a gorgeous sounding instrument in my opinion. I love this thing. Is it my favorite guitar that I own? No, it's not, just because I have sentimental value and stories attached to some of my other guitars. But this thing does sound phenomenal, and it's easily one of my best sounding acoustic guitars. Arguably, and possibly to your ear, could be my very best sounding acoustic guitar. And I can tell you that I have played much more expensive guitars from Martin and Taylor and Gibson that I liked far less, genuinely speaking. And I'm the last person to tell you that you'll get a $300 guitar that'll beat a $4,000 Martin, because I haven't found one that will. But this $850 Epiphone, I almost called it a Gibson. This $850 Epiphone absolutely does outcompete several $1,500, $1,600, $1,700, $1,800 guitars that I have played from so many companies, and it stacks up so favorably to the Gibson Hummingbird that I am just flabbergasted. So that's good sounding of a guitar. And you don't even have to take my word for it. There are videos out there of other people comparing them directly to Gibson Hummingbirds. Okay, so I've done my own side-by-side comparison, unfortunately not on video, but to my own ear. I heard what I heard. I went and watched those videos. All that did was confirm how close they sounded to me. So if you want to watch those, you can find them all over YouTube. This thing really is an amazing acoustic electric guitar for anybody at any price point. And fun fact for you, it's only going to sound better with age. Okay, this one was made, when was this one made? 2021. So this was made 2 years ago, probably not quite 2 years ago. And because we have a solid top, and in this case, solid back and sides, this wood has only begun to open up. And so it's going to continue to get better and better and better with age. Basically, this is pretty much the worst it's ever going to sound. Now, how crazy is that? So it has a lot of time to break in and sound even better as time goes on. Now that is amazing. It really is. It's a killer axe. And if you've been looking for a Gibson Hummingbird and you've been wanting one for years and you just can't justify it, let me tell you, this is way easier to justify to yourself, to your wife, to your girlfriend, to your boyfriend, to your husband, to your partner, whatever the situation is. $850 brand new, or oftentimes like $600 used, it's a no-brainer. It really and truly is a no-brainer. This guitar is killer. Okay? Yeah, it says Epiphone on the headstock. Who gives a damn? The name on your headstock means nothing. It means absolutely nothing to anybody but snobs and elitists. Okay? If you're a gigging musician especially, you shouldn't give half a damn what that says. You should be looking for the best sound you can get and the best playability you can get. And I gotta say that it doesn't get a whole lot better than this. Not that I found. And apparently I have a moth in my room. Anyhow, this has been my review on this beautiful guitar from Epiphone. This thing really does just absolutely kill it. Always screw up on these demonstrations. It's late. It's like 2 in the morning. So, I stay up late just to do these videos so everyone else is asleep and are not making a lot of noise. And it's not as hot, so I don't have to run my AC to cause background noise. And as a result, I'm always very tired during these videos. But nevertheless, I really hope you guys have enjoyed my take and my look on this wonderful guitar from Epiphone. So, until next time,